So at the time of recording this video, it's been about a month since I was diagnosed with ocular melanoma, and I wanted to talk through some of the ways that I'm coping with the diagnosis. And I'm not saying that these are things that you should be using to cope, I'm just explaining what's helping me at the moment. I'd be really interested to hear how you're coping with a cancer diagnosis. What sort of things are you doing that are helping you to manage on the day-to-day and manage those difficult feelings that no doubt come up throughout this process? So the first way that I'm coping is humour. And humour is a really tricky thing because I don't know about you, but I find that I'm allowed to use certain aspects of humour, but I find that if other people use it or if certain other people use it in front of me about this diagnosis, I can find that quite offensive or upsetting. And I know maybe that sounds a bit hypocritical, like it's okay for me to talk about it in a certain way but not other people, but that's just how it is at the moment. So I've used some dark humour at times in front of my husband and certain other people that I trust, and that's felt okay. And some other people who I know are quite jokey but I think are sensitive have also made jokes as well that I've thought were quite funny, and it's not mocking it, it's trying to, I guess, diffuse the situation. I've never found it to be mocking, but I think there may be times where someone tries to make light of it and I'm just maybe not in the mood. It may be that it depends on the day and how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling pretty good generally, maybe that humour's okay. But if I'm having a bit of a down day and a day where I feel generally more anxious, which does happen, then sometimes I don't find humour to be useful. But on the whole, I do find humour to be helpful because it's that cliche statement, if you can't laugh, then you'll cry. And I'm not saying crying's bad, but I do think now and then humour can just help to diffuse and lighten what can be a really dark and isolating situation. The second skill or thing I try to bear in mind is to stay in the present and take one day at a time. I am someone who likes to plan ahead, so there are certain things that I've read up on because I want to know what can potentially lay ahead and what I need to do. So for example, my tumour is classed as low risk. It is not going to be recommended that I have routine surveillance scans, and so I've been reading up on that and looking at how NHS guidelines have changed around that. I think before 2023 everybody was routinely scanned, and that changed in 2023 that tumours that were classed as low risk won't be put forward for routine surveillance. And so that's important for me to know that because that's something I will push for, because I'm not happy with having this treatment and then never having any surveillance scans ever again. So there are things like that where I think for me it's been important to know what the situation is, and also at the same time trying to keep things present moment, one day at a time, because the next step for me is the brachytherapy. I want to focus on that, so I don't want to get too far ahead. I'm thinking let's get the treatment out of the way and then I can start talking to people about what the next steps are. The next one is something I find really hard to do, and that is sitting with the uncomfortable feelings. And for obvious reasons, this is not pleasant at the best of times. The feeling that I struggle with most at the moment is when I have periods during the day where I just feel generally more anxious. I'm worrying about the future. I'm just not feeling myself. I'm feeling out of control. I have a tendency to try and distract, just take my mind off that. And I'm not saying distraction is a bad thing because I think that's really helpful. For me, there's also something about just allowing those feelings to sit there and acknowledge them because they're valid emotions to have. And the more I try and push them away, the worse they seem to get. So I'm trying to do a bit more of that and just allowing those feelings to sit there and acknowledge that they are part of this process, that I'm not going to feel good every single day or throughout every day. I'm going to have periods which feel tougher than others, and that's okay because I'm a human being going through a difficult situation. I found what helps me with sitting with uncomfortable feelings is doing deep breathing exercises because they help to switch on the parasympathetic nervous system. Just to get a bit technical, if your body feels like it's going into fight or flight mode, taking some slow deep breaths can help to switch that off and tell your body that you're not under threat. But like I say, also sometimes I find distraction to be the best thing, getting on with something else, almost so that my mind forgets about the thing that I'm worried about. This next one can be difficult at times as well, and that is to carry on living. Life doesn't stop when you get a cancer diagnosis, and it's been really weird because in some ways it feels like it has stood still because I've been waiting for the treatment, and then at others it's like life has carried on. I've carried on going to work, carried on doing the usual things, but I don't think it would be helpful for me to withdraw and stop doing the things that I normally do. I think that would probably make me feel even more isolated. Saying that though, there are times where at the weekends I haven't wanted to go out, I've just wanted to be at home. I've just felt the need to be somewhere familiar, just giving myself permission to do that. I think if it got into a routine of not leaving the house, I don't think that would be good for me. But I think there are times I've got to listen to what I need in that moment. And if it is just to be at home and just be in a place that I feel safe, I think I need to listen to that. But otherwise, I want my husband and I to carry on doing things together that we would normally do, and even think about doing more as long as finances and budget allow, because I want us to make the most of this time we have. Not that I have any inkling about what's going to happen, but I don't want to live life in a way that I put things off now. If we want to do things, I think we should do them as much as we can. Another thing that's helping me cope is to really take time to appreciate the small things. And these are things that I normally, I guess, take for granted. Having a roof over my head, having decent food to eat, my husband, who's a huge support. And it's not about trying to minimize the impact of this diagnosis, but I don't want that to be the thing that takes over my mind all the time. Alongside this diagnosis, I am very lucky with what I have in my life, and I want to appreciate that, because I guess that helps to give me the motivation to, just keep going. And engaging with what I need to do with my treatment enables me to still be around for those things and to appreciate those things. Another thing that's helping me to cope with this cancer diagnosis is having trusted people that I can talk to. There are some people, including family members, that I won't talk to about it because I think it's very difficult for them, and therefore they're not going to be able to support me. Not that I want them to fix anything, I just really want people to listen. But I think it's important that whoever it is, that they can handle what you're going to say, because maybe this sounds mean, but I don't think it's my job to support the people around me with my diagnosis. It's not my job to make them feel better about it. And so I hope they reach out to people in whatever way feels good for them. But I don't want to have to talk to people about my diagnosis and make it okay for them, because I need to be able to speak to people who I can share my feelings with. So I do have a couple of close friends I can talk to, my husband, but there are times that I don't share necessarily everything with my husband and my friends, because I guess I want to protect them as well. But on the whole, I feel that I've got good support around me. The next thing that's helping me to cope is what I call finding community, and I'm going to make another plug for OCULAR Melanoma UK. Joining them as a member is free. They have a Facebook group for patients, they have a Facebook group for family and friends. I can't even remember how I found them, I don't know if I just googled it, but I joined them maybe 3 or 4 days after I was diagnosed, and I'm so grateful that I did. I've learned so much helpful information from the Facebook group. I've had a lot of support. It's been a place that I've been able to go and just vent and share my different feelings, my worries, my anxieties, my frustrations. It's been really helpful to have a community of people who are going through the same situation. There are lots of variations in how people feel, but there's lots of overlaps in how we feel and what this diagnosis has meant to us all. Even if you don't join the Facebook groups, there's lots of really good information on their website. The next one I will call watching mindless videos on social media. And no, I'm not talking about things that will make you mad or, like those rage bait videos. There are channels I like where the content just makes me laugh. It's really heartwarming. Just things that don't use a lot of mental energy. You don't have to think. They're not gonna get you wound up. They're just nice, harmless videos. So if I'm having a bad day, going online and watching some mindless but heartwarming stuff, I just find that really helpful. The next coping strategy, if you like, that I use is crying. There are times where I do find it hard to cry, even though I want to about this. What works for me is listening to specific pieces of music or sad pieces of music that help the tears to come. I read somewhere that actually tears contain the stress hormone cortisol, so crying can be a helpful way to relieve stress. I highly recommend crying as a form of stress relief and just releasing the tension that builds up for me. It's just a real roller coaster at times. There are periods even in the same day where I feel very different. I can feel hopeful and positive, or just quite kind of neutral, yeah, let's get on with this. And there might be a point in the day where I feel more anxious or I feel quite hopeless about things. I don't even try to look for the reason why my emotions are up and down. I just accept that that is what is happening. And another one to add on to that is hugs. Like I mentioned before, there are times where I don't feel in control of my body. I feel really anxious throughout my body and I just feel out of control. I'll say to my husband, I could really do with a hug, and not just a there hug. I need a big squeezy hug to almost just ground me back in my body and give me something solid. Not all the time, I'm not a big huggy person, but after this I've really appreciated big squeezy hugs, not because I want to use them as a way to hug away this problem, but just because it helps to ground me back in my body. I hope these ways of coping with a cancer diagnosis have been helpful for you. Let me know down in the comments what's helping you to cope with your cancer diagnosis. It might be there are things that we've not tried and we can learn from each other. Go well, everybody, and I will see you soon.